heard a rumor of a very small company that can solve any problem for a price. The issue is, I have a big problem, but I don't know what the price would be to have it fixed. At this point, I'm almost ready to try anything. The place I heard of was more of an urban legend. It wouldn't be that much of a waste of time if it didn't work, so I woke up at the crack of dawn to try it out. At least it would have been the crack of dawn if the sun still rose at 6 a.m. I hated how little daylight we got in the fall and winter. The first step is simple. Open any GPS and put in the Friday agency. If a location 13 minutes away from you shows up, walk to it. It must be on foot for the agency to appear. If you take a car or a bike, the location will disappear from your GPS. It's pretty basic. There's some mixture of rumors that this place only shows up on a Friday the 13th, or just on Fridays. Either way, I did it today just in case. To my shock, it worked. On a cold, dark morning, I walked through some random streets to a very old-fashioned office building. It looked like a turn-of-the-century home that had been turned into some sort of private practice. The building squished between two houses so unnaturally, I was convinced right away this urban legend was true. I stood outside, knees shaking from the cold and from the worry of what I might be getting myself into. I tightened my long coat as if it would protect me and walked up the well-kept wooden steps. A brass knocker was set into the middle of the door. It felt almost too cold to touch. After 2 knocks, I thought I heard a voice inviting me inside. Then, the door creaked open on its own. I didn't want to go inside, but I've come this far. I didn't need to make a deal if the price was too steep for what sort of problem I needed to be fixed. There wasn't too much light inside to see. I followed the only source of glowing orange to an open office. The owner was waiting behind a large wooden antique desk. He sorted some papers before kindly waving me over for us to speak. I half expected him to be creepy because of the way I got there. He was tall and slim, wearing a brown button vest, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His dark pants were neatly pressed, with a crease down each leg. I didn't see his shoes, but I bet they were well polished. He took off a pair of silver-framed glasses to set on top of his paper. I got closer, but I stopped, seeing his smile. It was friendly, but there was something about it that put my teeth on edge. He noticed my nervous glance and tried to appear more human.
"Come on over, miss, please. I'm not going to eat you."
He spoke in a very soft voice that had a hint of an accent, British maybe. I saw a hint of a sharp set of teeth and doubted his claim. I walked in front of his desk, but didn't sit down. "Am I in the right place?" I asked slowly, wanting to run.
"If you're looking for groceries, then no. But if you're looking for the Friday agency, then yes,"
he joked. I forced out a smile. He didn't look offended. "You're the owner, Mr.." I looked around for a name tag on his desk.
"Friday,"
he introduced himself. "I guess that makes it easy to understand. Well, Mr. Friday, I'm fairly certain my house is mega haunted," I said, feeling an odd weight off my chest. After admitting something I'd held on to for over a month, his expression fell slightly, as if he lost interest in my business.
"Well, I do has clients relating to a haunting to get a carbon..."
I cut him off, hands up to assure him I wasn't crazy. "I've done that. I have one in every room. I've got people to come over to check out the heating, the attic, the insulation, everything. I bought sage and crystals even though I don't believe in that stuff. Trust me, if you thought of it, I've done it trying to get rid of all these damn issues. I don't even believe in ghosts, but something is going on with that place." His steel gray eyes looked interested after the first few words. Very interested. I doubted he had too many people who came in that didn't spout nonsense. He needed to believe in all sorts of things to even get here in the first place.
"What sort of things are you experiencing?"
he questioned as he picked up a blank sheet of paper. He put his glasses back on, which made him look older. I guess he was 40 at most. His black hair had some gray on the sides, but his face was clear of wrinkles. I wondered if anyone told him that he looked like an old British librarian before. What hasn't been happening? The house started creaking. Things get moved around. I've woken up with bruises on my wrists and socks missing for some reason. I have cameras everywhere. They've caught a shadow figure with some mist, but I haven't been sleepwalking. I swear, I'm living in a crappy horror movie, I said with a long sigh.
"That does sound troublesome to deal with. Have you contacted any other experts, considering you have recorded proof?"
Friday asked as he wrote a few final notes. "What experts? Most are frauds who would be after my family's money. The real believers are nuts. I refuse to let anyone see those goddamn shadow figure videos because it would just cause way more problems. People would be saying that I faked it for attention. Others would try to see what angle they could play to benefit them. It's been a mess." A smile crept over his face, one far more genuine than his first.
"So, to deal with the supernatural, you've decided to rely on the supernatural?"
he asked, a pen hovering in his hand. "You look human, but yes, I can make a deal for my kidney or firstborn if I get rid of this damn ghost." He needed to hide a fit of laughter behind his hand. At least someone found my suffering amusing.
"I will take your case. My payment won't be such things. I do take regular money. However, I may ask for something else. It shall be nothing you'll be forced to part with or an agreement made by force. I am not in the practice of taking advantage of my clients."
Well, that was comforting. I still didn't fully trust him or believe he wasn't human. This all felt too real to be some sort of supernatural deal. "Can I get that last part in writing?" I said with a raised eyebrow. He let out a very small laugh again to pull a written statement from his desk. He let me read it over a few times, making sure I wasn't missing anything. What he said was the same as the document. We would decide on the amount or payment I felt comfortable with after the job was finished. The reason for payment to be decided afterwards was because the job may turn into a bigger deal than what was expected. My small ghost might turn into a demon infestation. So, we both signed the contract, my face slightly red because he saw my full name written down.
"Now, Ms. River, would it be possible to take care of your haunted house today? Or would you like to schedule for a different time?"
I hated the fact my parents spelled my name with a Y. Like, who even does that? I put that mortifying detail aside to focus on his question. "I just kind of figured you could only finish this today." I shrugged.
"My office is only open to the public on Fridays. I take private and certain clients on other days. If you're all right with today, then I suggest that we get started."
I followed him to the door and watched as he put on a gray wool jacket that matched my own, right down to the large black buttons. His was just longer. I didn't know how I felt about us having the same taste in jackets. I didn't know where I ended up, so I put my address into my phone's GPS to get back home. The walk was the same amount of time it took to get to his office. When I looked over my shoulder after we left, I saw the building had disappeared. A chill ran down my spine. as I prayed that I did the right thing going to him for help. The walk back was silent between us. Another mortifying detail came up as I punched in the code for the front gate. I hated people knowing where I lived. My parents had a decent amount of money. I didn't. Anything I had, I worked for. It may have been working at their company, but I still earned it. The only thing they ever gave me was this house. I took care of it on my own. No maids, no lawn service. I needed to earn it, and I refused for some damn ghost to ruin this place for me. Friday didn't appear to care about the size of the place. He did stop to look at the ponds out front. I think he liked the comic goldfish I stocked them with. I hung up my jacket when we got inside, and he did the same. It was nice to be in from the cold, but now I needed to deal with removing an unseen pest. I let Friday walk across the marble flooring into the middle of the front room. He looked around, alert, his senses taking in things I couldn't.
Yes, there is something here. It's too weak for my nose to pinpoint. This may be tricky.
He frowned and then appeared as if he was thinking. Tricky in what way? I pressed.
For me to get a better sense of what is here, I would like to make an offering to increase its power. However, I do not wish for you to be here if this presence decides to lash out. I fear that if you leave, then whatever is here won't show itself.
He explained. I hired you to get rid of this ghost. If it starts acting up, I'll leave. I don't mind a few scares or scratches. I'll just stay away from any stares, in case it gets any ideas. I got another natural smile from him. At least he had a sense of humor. I still didn't like how he held himself. There was something inhuman about him. But I could deal with that for as long as I needed to. For a second, I thought I made a mistake trusting him after he pulled out a very small, thin, golden knife from his pocket. Without warning, he dug the blade into his hand, letting a steady stream of blood flow to the floor. Gross, I commented. He pulled the blade free, the wound appearing to disappear along with the blood. One less thing to clean up later.
That helped. The traces are still faint, but I may be able to piece together what this so-called ghost wants. First, let's go upstairs.
I went up first, in case my unwanted invisible roommate tried anything, which did happen. Just before I reached the last few steps, my feet flew out from under me. I let out a scream of fear. Shooting pain came from both my ankles. Friday saved me from smashing my face into the hard steps. I sat shaking for a second as he made sure I wasn't going to go flying down the stairs. I can't believe the bastard tried something on the stairs. If he wasn't dead, I'd kill him again. I hissed, anger almost overriding my fear.
I don't doubt that.
Aside from a bit of shock and some new bruises from wherever those unseen hands grabbed my ankles, I was fine. I led the way again, my steps slow and careful. My hired help behind me. At times, he paused to walk the same spot on the floor, his expression intent and ears open. He even stopped to rock his heels on one spot, hearing something I didn't. Since I caught the shadow figure outside the bedroom, I wanted Friday to clear that room. I hated how it became nearly impossible to sleep, fearing someone was right behind my door. I was in such a rush to take care of this ghost, I forgot to hide my laundry basket of dirty clothes. As Friday looked around the room, I carefully kicked the basket into my closet with one foot.
You mentioned some socks have gone missing. Has there been other articles of clothing?
Friday started to ask. A set of strong hands grabbed my shoulder from behind. Within a second, I was dragged into my closet, the doors slamming shut. I screamed, reaching out in the sudden darkness to take hold of the doors, to pry them open. My heart was racing, knowing I wasn't alone. I thought I heard Friday's voice on the other side, calling out for me. I put that at the back of my mind when I heard breathing behind me. The hot air on the back of my neck. My skin crawled, and my hands shook too much to get out. I hated the idea of knowing what was behind me, but I needed to look at it to see what I was facing. Slowly, I turned my head, sweat dripping down my face. All I saw was a set of eyes staring back at me. Then, white teeth in the darkness emerged.
River.
A voice rasped out. I screamed louder than I ever had in my entire life. My body acted on its own. I clenched my fist and punched it forward as hard as I could. Of course, you can't punch a ghost. My hand kept going hard into the wall. My knuckles screamed out in pain. I found myself stuck, struggling to get free. Just as Friday got the doors open, he saw me, tears in my eyes, and my hand wrist deep into the drywall. He looked me over, unsure of what to say. "A ghost pulled me in here," I said, voice hoarse with tears. He got to work freeing my hand. We walked into the light to make sure I didn't break any bones, only the wall.
How strange, I did not sense a ghost. I did see you fall backwards, and I did feel some sort of power, but this does not feel like a ghost.
Friday said, mostly to himself. "I don't really care what kind of spook it is. It just needs to be gone." My fear had turned to slight rage at that point. He didn't notice my tone at all. The small sound coming from the closet distracted him. After making sure my hand wouldn't fall off, Friday went back inside, despite my protests. I refused to go beyond the doors, so I watched him from the outside. He pushed aside clothing and junk, not paying any attention to what he touched. His hand fell over the hole that I punched in the wall, as if feeling a breeze.
How old is this house?
He asked. "I don't know. Old," I said, very helpfully.
Did you do any remodeling?
"Yeah, my parents redid the entire thing before I moved in." He nodded at my answer, and then committed to his property damage. I held my tongue to watch him tear a bigger hole in the drywall, an opening covered in spider webs, slowly being revealed by the damage. When the hole was big enough, he fit his head inside to look down. I nearly screamed over the thought of whatever bugs made a home behind the wall and now could crawl into the light.
It's a dumbwaiter shaft. I believe it goes all the way down to the ground floor. There may be a few of these in the building. There's no cable, but I would like to see where it goes. I can climb along the other side of this wall.
He was thin enough to fit inside the space. He went into tearing more drywall, just enough to get his legs through. "You're just gonna leave me here?" I said, shocked at the idea.
You tried to punch a ghost and it left. You should be alright on your own for a short while.
He already had one leg through the hole. His trustworthy expression not comforting me at all. "There's spiders in there." I made an attempt to scare him to stay out of my damn walls.
I liked spiders. They're more afraid of us than we are of them. But don't worry. I'll call if I need someone punched in the face.
I cannot believe he made a joke before he crawled inside, leaving me alone in my room. I tried to stay calm as I waited for him to come back. Would he come back? Or would he be eaten in there? My mind got away from me as I imagined this entire house being a creature ready to swallow us both whole. I never should have let my parents get this damn place. After I got it, I didn't want to go back on their gift and sell it. Hell, if I tried to sell it, they would just give me a different house. I never wanted to be the stuck-up rich girl, getting rid of a place because of a bad vibe. I could have sworn I saw a dark shape standing in the corner of my eye. The breathing that I heard before came from the direction of my doorway. I refused to give the thing any attention. No matter how scared I was or how much my hands shook, I pretended it wasn't there. The floor creaked as the shape took one small step closer. I took a hold of my hands, gripping them together. My bruised knuckles hurt right away. Was this a trap that Friday set? Did he leave the room to lure this thing out to somehow kill it? Or did he just leave me here to fend for myself? I gritted my teeth together as I waited. The breathing crept closer. 1,000 horrible ideas running through my head. The slightest touch came at the back of my neck, nearly making me cry out.
Can you come up to the attic? I found something disturbing.
Friday's voice came from the hole, but I didn't see him. A spell of terror broke. What had been inside the room faded, leaving me alone once again. I almost considered my mind was playing tricks on me. The fact that Friday had said disturbing didn't even register until I was out of the room. He hadn't been affected by anything yet, so what the hell was in the attic that made him use that word? I've never been up into the attic. The drop-down ladder broke and I never replaced it. I kept a stepladder in the closet by the opening. The workers used it to get up there, but they were taller than me. Friday opened the hatch, his clothing dusty from exploring. I got to the top of the ladder before I realized my mistake. He held out a hand, and I took it. To my surprise, he was much stronger than he looked. With ease, he pulled me through, careful not to rip my arm off when he did. The attic was dusty as hell. I hated touching the floor with only socks on. I wish I'd kept my shoes. It was empty, except for leftover cobwebs. A large window gave us enough gray light to see by. I didn't know why he dragged me up here, until I saw another new hole, far off in the corner of the room. I sighed, knowing I needed to crawl through that. My arms itched as I got down low to get into the small opening. An orange light came from the bare light bulb overhead. My hands touched some of the old food wrappers scattered on the floor. This walled-off space looked like a rat's nest. A pile of blankets sat off to the side. My missing socks mixed into the pile. To my embarrassment, I saw a pair of stolen underwear as well. The far wall had been covered up with a blanket that looked less dusty than the others. The horror of what I was seeing finally dawned on me when Friday fit himself through the makeshift door. Was someone living up here? I asked in a small voice.
Unfortunately, yes. The dumbwaiter cables have been broken. I believe before that happened, they used it to get between floors. I did not go very far, but it would make sense if a hidden door opened to the kitchen, or to a different floor where they could get inside for their food in case you did not notice anything missing. This is shocking, however. I covered the most startling part of this discovery.
If someone lived inside my walls and up here in the attic, that would have explained everything. Everything besides what started to happen when Friday came inside the house. I had a ghost, that was for sure. But I also had someone living up here. I dreaded what I would see behind the blanket Friday pinned up. I gathered all my courage to pull up a corner, only to see my face looking back. A cutout of my face on a very suggestive print of another woman's body. I didn't need to see more of this wall to know what it was. Some freak had taken photos of my face to create his disgusting shrine. I noticed a closed laptop, my stomach churning over the ideas of what might be on that hard drive. Did he have cameras around my place without me knowing? If he did, are there videos of me online somewhere? When I thought it couldn't get any worse, I lifted the blanket enough to see rolls of duct tape next to the laptop. I couldn't hold it in. My stomach turned. I quickly got to the corner of the room to get sick. That freak had plans for me. I'd been sleeping in this house, unaware of the terrible fact that someone else had been watching, waiting to do something unspeakable. A hand touched my back. I lashed out, hitting Friday hard in the shoulder. The punch was hard enough to knock him back a little.
I'm sorry, I should have given you some warning,
he admitted. The poor guy wanted to make me feel better, and I punched him. Sorry, and thanks. What the hell do I do with all this?
Well, contact the police to start with,
he suggested. I hated the fact that the comment made me laugh. My eyes sting from tears. My mouth tasted terrible from getting sick, but at least I wasn't alone in all of this. I almost forgot the whole ghost thing, which came back to bite us in the ass. Something didn't like us getting along. I watched in horror as some force knocked Friday to the ground. I reached for him, but my fingers just brushed against his polished shoes. A black cloud of mist seeped from between the wooden boards, covering the person I hired to help. It roughly dragged him close to the opening to the empty dumbwaiter shaft, ready to pull him in. I ran over, wanting to do whatever I could to help. My feet got tangled in the discarded blankets. I screamed as I fell forward into the black mist. I kept falling until I hit the old wood by the shaft, my weight enough to break through it. The black mist tried to keep me from falling, but I pushed away from it, unaware that I doomed myself. I fell back into the empty shaft. An exposed board hit my head so hard I saw stars, and then nothing at all. I should have died. If I didn't have Friday there, I would have. In fact, I never would have figured out what was in my house. Knowing didn't make me feel any better. Neither did waking up on my cold basement floor with a splitting headache. I didn't sit up for a few minutes, just trying to get my act together. When I did sit up to look around, I saw the opening of the shaft we fell through. I realized that Friday came down the shaft either after or before me, when I saw his left arm bloody at his side. His elbow didn't look at the right angle, and yet he moved as if it wasn't hurting him.
You should see a doctor shortly. Any blow to the head that knocks you out could be serious,
he commented after he noticed I woke up. I looked at his feet, trying to make sense of the pile of trash there. I stored all the leftovers from the remodel down there. I assumed the wood and cloth had been from that. When my mind clicked, I was glad I had already gotten sick.
Have you been away from the house for a length of time?
He asked. I couldn't take my eyes off the pile at his feet. My body felt as if it had sunk into the ground as I nodded. Last summer, gone for 3 months, I replied in a small voice. A dried human hand stuck out from under the boards. Friday kicked the remains of the dumbwaiter aside to show what was left over of the man who'd been living inside my house without my knowledge.
The cable snapped while he was inside. It must have happened right before you left. A mixture of the large house and the cold weather explains how the smell went unnoticed.
Not only did he live in this house, but he also died here. How long have I been living with a ghost? I really couldn't decide which was worse, him alive and watching me, or this man being dead and still watching. Friday used his good hand to dig around in the remains. He pulled out a wallet. An ID had been sticking out the front slip. Otherwise, we would have never been able to open it from the body rotting the leather.
Do you know a Kevin Hampton?
I shook my head again. I've known a few Kevins, but none with that last name. At least I thought so. A guy named Kevin worked on the renovations. I'll have to ask my parents what his full name was. Apparently, that was the wrong answer. The black mist followed us down into the basement, and it was pissed I forgot his full name. Friday turned ready to fight, his golden letter opener in his hand, as if that would do something useful. He lasted 5 seconds. The mist shot across the room and into the twisted, rotten body on the floor. Horror stopped my breathing when the body snapped into place, the joints creaking and popping, the dried flesh barely clinging to the broken bones. Black fog drifted from the empty eye sockets that landed on Friday. Those rotten hands took hold of him. He forced the letter opener into the already cracked skull with no effect. He was tossed clear across the room, landing in a pile of old lumber. The wood and the boards fell over, kicking up dust. Those terrible eyes turned in my direction. I crawled backward, body shaking.
How dare you! Full name! Full name! You bitch! We went to high school together!
A hateful voice from the dried lips echoed through the basement. Did I go to school with a Kevin? I must have, but I had no clue who this guy was. I got up wanting to run, but my legs shook too badly. I saw a short wooden beam leaning against more junk. I picked it up, holding it like a baseball bat. I doubted if I could do anything to this undead creature's weapon or not. Fuck you, dude. Literally nothing I could have done to you justified you being a creep and making a gross-ass shrine in the attic and living up there. And fuck, you took my underwear. Who does that? I found shouting made me only a tiny bit less scared. The creature shouted back a few choice insults and said what it wanted to do to me, which I don't ever want to repeat. It took everything I had to not start hitting it with this big stick that I'd found.
We work together! I never made fun of your name like everyone else. I did everything you asked in school. We were perfect for each other. I knew it was me they wanted me to watch over you. To make sure you didn't bring home creeps and look at who you dragged in. He was crawling through the walls like a freak.
Calling the kettle black, and I told you, I don't remember you from school at all. Did you ever ask me out, or did you just do the whole attic thing first? I glanced over to see that Friday had almost freed himself from the large pile. If he ran, he wouldn't have gotten to me in time. The body of my undead stalker closed the gap between us. I hit him as hard as I could, taking a large chunk out of the skull. That didn't even slow him down. I was forced to the ground screaming, those hands made of nothing but bones holding my wrists together so hard I thought they might break. The skull of a face got closer to mine, black smoke pouring out. A thick, disgusting tongue licked his chipped teeth as a hand came down to grab hold of my waist, each finger digging into the flesh, so painful tears came to my eyes.
I said we're perfect for each other. I finally got my body back. So I'm gonna use it.
The creature whispered. The calmer tone scared me more than his rage. All the fight drained from my blood. I thought I was going to die on the spot. This thing had watched me for months for his disgusting reasons. And for what? Because he thought that he was entitled to all of this. I was scared, more frightened than I'd ever been before. And at the same time, I've never been more pissed off. I didn't even think. I just let out another scream and then used everything I had to push back. I caught him by surprise. His grip came off my wrist long enough for me to get him on his back so that I could sit on his chest. His fingertips still dug into my side, tearing my shirt. I didn't care. I grabbed anything my hands could reach. I found the wooden beam again. Using both hands, I smashed it into his face.
You can't.
He sputtered through broken teeth. He might already be dead, but that didn't stop me. I brought the wood down again and again until the face was nothing but a pile of crushed bone and black smoke. In the struggle, he threw me off, the now headless body crawling blindly on the floor. I was still scared of it. I knew if I let him get away, my nightmare would never end. I brought the wood down again, my hands in so much pain from the blows it made me drop my weapon. But I didn't stop. I stomped again and again. All the frustration and rage poured into one focal point. I wasn't just lashing out at him anymore. It was for all the times that someone felt entitled to my body, for all the creeps at the bus stop, for all the so-called accidental bumps out in public. Every time a stranger found my name, looked me up online, and sent disgusting messages. I even gave him a few extra kicks because I couldn't turn my mic on rare occasions that I played games online. Yeah, by the time I was done, pieces of the body had been scattered across the cement flooring. The black smoke fled from the host. But it wasn't as threatening as before. The shape crouched over, reeling from the damage. Sharp teeth and claws showed in case I tried to get closer. I fell to the ground, exhausted with every part of my body in pain. I cut my hands open in the attack. I might have even broken an ankle from kicking down so hard. If that thing came for me now, I'd be done. It didn't seem to know that.
You cannot defeat me so easily. I devoured that man's regrets. However, they seem to be too weak. I'll just find something stronger to come back for you.
Totally forgot about Friday. I didn't see what he did, but the dark creature was hit by a blast of white light. It screamed as the body burned away into nothing. I looked over to him, stunned.
It wasn't a ghost,
he weakly explained. He went on after seeing my expression.
It was a kind of creature that feeds on human emotions. The stronger the emotion, the more powerful it becomes. It also risks having its sense of self taken over. I suppose that all doesn't matter, considering you put it in its place.
I may have kicked the crap out of that creature, but I didn't kill it. If Friday wasn't here, that thing would for sure have come back to kill me. I was still shocked that my anger had taken over my fear. What happened finally sunk in, making me shake. I nearly died, or was eaten, or something else. I wanted to scream and cry at the same time. I also was too scared to ever live alone again. I lived through today by fighting, but I didn't know how I was going to deal with tomorrow. I found Friday helping me stand again. I needed to take small steps at a time. The first step was to get out of the basement. I caught his eye and suddenly wanted to run again. His good hand held mine tight as he got closer to my face. His expression made my stomach twist.
You know, I wouldn't mind something special as payment for...
I didn't let him finish. I grabbed his broken arm and twisted it.
No!
He let out a yelp and fell to his knees. I refused to let go, a rage bubbling in my stomach.
Please, I wasn't serious.
He pleaded. You better not have been. I snapped, finally giving back his arm. A sound like a mixture between a laugh and a groan came from him. He dabbed at the corner of his eye with the back of his hand, a human smile on his face.
You'll be fine after this,
Friday said in a light tone. That comment of his was a test. He was worried I was so traumatized by the whole event I might not fight back the next time something terrible happened. I almost felt bad about hurting him. He stood back up, brushing his clothes off with his good hand.
I'll contact a detective that I have connections with to clean up the rest of the case. I would also suggest some therapy. However, I do not know of anyone that can deal with the supernatural part.
That last part was a good idea. Anyone would need therapy after finding out someone had been living in their attic, ready to murder them at some point. After your friend cleans this up, I'm never talking to another man again. I huffed, still feeling hurt. Friday nodded with an understanding expression, but didn't agree with me.
I am certain that there are underlying illnesses to Kevin acting the way that he did. I have not dealt with the same issues that you have faced, but I would like to believe that overall, your experiences with men haven't been completely negative.
Did you just not all men me? I said, eyebrow raised. His smile dropped to a confused one.
I'm sorry, but I do not know what that means,
he admitted. I would give him a pass. I wasn't being serious when I said that I refused to talk to any more men again, and he was right. Not all the guys I've interacted with have been bad. In fact, only a very small fraction had acted in any kind of negative way. But when they sucked hard.
Besides all of that,
Friday started.
Unfortunately, we need to agree on a payment for this small job, or else I am unable to arrange for my friend for the cleanup. I have rules on how I must run my business, and getting paid is one of them.
My body still hurt. I wish that we could do this later, but the sooner we figured it out, the sooner I could have this all over with. Okay, how much do you want? Do you even want cash? Do you want something else? I offered, unaware of what I walked into.
I would like very much. Like for us to be married, if possible.
I looked him over for a very long time, looking for the joke. I realized he was honest, and then raised my hand for another punch. He quickly backpedaled, and even took a step away.
It would be very much a supernatural connection. It would not affect you in any way. However, it would let me get my foot in the door on this side of things. I would be able to operate my business on more Fridays to humans. If this does not appeal to you, I'll take the amount that you deem fair.
I listened to his explanation and considered it. If I accepted, I would really be helping him out, and he did crawl through a spider-infested wall for me. What would we need to do? Get dressed up, say some vows or something? I asked, debating the idea.
I would need a kiss on the hand. That's all.
Really? That was pretty strange. A simple thing like that, and we were married. I thought about the suggestion for a bit. I didn't answer until we got out of the basement and to the front door. I held out my hand, not saying a word.
Are you certain?
Friday questioned, not taking the offer just yet. You said it won't do anything to me, right? And this saves me some cash, so... He helped me out today. This was the least I could do for him. Carefully, he took my hand and raised my bruised knuckles to his lips. I looked away, embarrassed, unable to watch the quick exchange. Friday said I wouldn't notice anything, but I did. Whatever injuries I had healed up the moment he let go of my hand. A small black band appeared on my ring finger, looking like a tattoo. That would bother me if it stayed forever. His arm snapped back into place and the blood faded away. My mouth dropped open, thinking I just made a bigger deal than I thought. The inhuman expression I glimpsed when we first met came back. I jerked my hand back, fear settling in my stomach again. In the back of my mind, I wondered if I somehow just got played. He acted so human, I forgot I was dealing with a creature I knew nothing about.
Thank you. I'll have the mess in your basement dealt with right away. Like I said, this marriage won't affect you in the slightest.
Friday said. His voice sounded much different than how he spoke all day. The marriage wouldn't affect me, but that didn't mean I hadn't just doomed anyone else. I could do nothing but let him take his jacket and leave. After I knew for certain he was gone, I grabbed a change of clothing to stay in a hotel for a day. I didn't ever want to step foot in my house again. I didn't care if my parents sold it, gave it away, or burned it down. I no longer have a haunted house. I wonder if just moving would have been the better answer. Either way, my problem was solved. If you have any problems that cannot be fixed by normal means, I would not suggest contacting Friday. I'm still not sure what kind of person he is. He might be a monster in sheep's clothing. I had a feeling he acted nice to me just to get what he wanted in the end. Things worked out for me in the end. I can't promise it will for you, or if you'll get away from the encounter with just lingering nightmares, like myself.